And open your Bible to Matthew chapter 2. We're only going to read two quick verses. So Matthew chapter 2, and it's verses 9, 10 and 11. So Matthew chapter 2, verses 9, 10 and 11. And this is about the wise men. Maybe not three, maybe more, maybe just two, maybe lots. We're not sure. But here we go. Verse 9. After they, that's the wise men, had heard the king, that's Herod, they went on their way, and the star they had seen in the east went ahead of them until it stopped over the place where the child was. Verse 10. When they saw the star, they were overjoyed. On coming to the house, so it's not a manger, it's now the house. Jesus at this stage, probably about 2 years old, a wee toddler. They saw the child and his mother Mary, and they bowed down and they worshipped him. They worshipped this toddler. Then they opened their treasures and presented him with gifts of gold and of incense and of myrrh. You know, I got thinking about this. As lots of you know, we have a wee son, Judah. He's about 1.5 years. And imagine yesterday for Christmas, those were some of the gifts that he got. As there came rapping on the door, a knock, and he opened it up, and there were wise men. Well, first of all, that might be a strange thought, men that are wise, but a wise men at the door. I mean, imagine you're a parent for a second, or if you're a parent, what is your response as a parent? These strangers come knocking on your door, and they explain, look, we've come a terribly far way. We've come a long journey, and we're here to see your boy. And we brought gifts. I mean, do you let them cross the threshold? Are they madmen? What are you thinking? What's going through your mind at this stage? Well, the wise men, they come in, and Mary's there, and of course they come before Jesus, and they present 3 gifts. Well, how would you feel yesterday? How would I have felt yesterday if somebody had presented Judah with some gold? I'm not going to complain. That would be fantastic. You know, a bit of gold, happy days. And if it was then explained, we believe that your boy is going to be a king. In fact, the king of all kings. He's going to be a ruler. He's going to be famous. As a parent, what a brilliant thing to hear. How exciting. A little bit scary, but very exciting. Next thing, here comes the next gift. And I'm not sure it was gift wrap, but we have some incense. His priestly nature. And as a Christian parent, that actually trumps the gold. There's no desire that I have greater for Judah than that he would grow up to know God personally, wholeheartedly, to love him. That's my greatest desire for him. But then the last gift comes along. The gift of myrrh. I was teaching this in primary school, and I have some of the kids from Prodigal, and it's not a myrrh like that you see your reflection in. It's myrrh that you would embalm a dead body in. How bizarre, how weird, how absolutely absurd. Myrrh, and with it comes the message, I got this for your boy because he is born to die. What a weird, bizarre, awkward choice of a gift. They could have chosen anything. That was a choice. Imagine unwrapping that yesterday. Moreover, imagine a child unwrapping that present from a complete stranger. A present that explained that they were going to die an important death. What is your reaction? There's a little curious phrase in the Bible that I keep coming back to, and I think I'll always come back to it, and maybe you do as well. And the more you think about it, the richer the little phrase becomes. It's a verse, Luke chapter 2 and verse 19, so just a little bit beyond, or a little bit, beyond what we read earlier. And it says, it was before. But that doesn't matter. Mary treasured up all these things and pondered them in her heart. You've probably come across that wee phrase and thought, that is really interesting. Why is that? As a mother, imagine, I bet, like, wouldn't you wrestle with those gifts and wonder what the future held for your family? Wouldn't you fear for your son that huge investment of time and energy the embodiment of your outpouring of love, wouldn't you fear that he would die ahead of you? When we dwell on Jesus' birth this time of year, marveling that God would limit himself and that he would humble himself to become flesh, when we dwell on that on one hand, we so naturally then focus on his death. The two are intertwined. The two are linked, born to die. And Jesus died on a cross between two thieves, two criminals. And those two criminals had so much in common. I don't think it was any accident that Jesus was placed right in the middle. And on each side, from what we can understand, at an equal distance, there were two criminals that shared so much in common, both convicted by the same system, both condemned to death, the same death on a cross, both surrounded by the same crowd of people, both equally close to Jesus. In fact, they even begin in Matthew chapter 27 and verse 44 saying cruel things to Jesus. Two men so similar, but one, right in the dying moments of his life, right in the final chapter of his life here on earth, one changed. If you turn with me now to Luke chapter 23, so across to Luke chapter 23, and again we're just reading a few verses 39 to 43. One of the criminals who hung there hurled insults at him. "Aren't you the Christ? Save yourself and us." But the other criminal rebuked him. "Don't you fear God?" he said. "Since you are under the same sentence, we're being punished justly. For we are getting what our deeds deserve. But this man, he's done nothing wrong." Verse 42. Then he said, that's Jesus, he said to Jesus, "Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom. Remember me when you go home to heaven." And Jesus answered him, "I tell you the truth. Today you will be with me in paradise." One choice separated their eternities. One choice that one of the thieves made right in the dying moments of his life. And it's easy, it's even comfortable this morning to focus on that thief who accepted Jesus. But while we are rejoicing at the thief who changed, dare we not forget the one who didn't? What about him, Jesus? Wouldn't a personal invitation towards that thief be appropriate? Wouldn't a word of persuasion at that moment be timely? In Luke chapter 15, that's the chapter in the Bible with the three parables: the lost sheep, the lost coin, and the lost son. The shepherd left the 99 sheep, left 99 behind, and he pursued the one that was lost. The housewife swept the house until the lost coin was found. But isn't it interesting when we think of those and we think of this on the cross? Shouldn't Jesus chase after that criminal's soul? Well, yes, the shepherd does pursue, and the housewife swept frantically. But the father of the prodigal, remember it? It seems strange now. Think carefully. What does he do? He stands back. The sheep was lost innocently. The coin was lost irresponsibly. But the prodigal son, the third parable in Luke chapter 15, the prodigal son, he left intentionally. The lure of quick hits, of sensory overload, the promise in the far-off country of you can have it all, tempted the son. He made a choice. He made a choice, and he left. And what did the father do? The father didn't stand in the way, he didn't tie him down, he didn't chase off after him. All the time knowing the son's choice was a path to self-destruction, he stood back. The father's heart ached for his son, but he honoured his son's choice. We've got the choice at the start of the wise men and their gifts, the choice of myrrh. And here we have a son's choice. And the Father honouring that choice. And God does the same for us. God has given humanity free will. He honours our choices. Jesus gifted us free will, and he stands by this, even when we make the wrong choices. In the parable of the prodigal son, the father stands aside as his son heads off to the far country. The father's heart is heavy, but he honours the choice. Here's what Max Lucado says about the criminals on each side of Jesus. If we jump back now to the criminals on each side of Jesus, he says this: when one prayed, Jesus loved him enough to save him. And when the other mocked, Jesus loved him enough to let him. Jesus allowed the choice, and he does the same for us. He has given us free will, and he honours that. The choice is ours. The choice of myrrh, the two choices of the thieves, both made a choice. Our choice, what do we do with Jesus? And finally this morning, I'll be quick. Finally, Jesus' choice and God's choice. This is a thing at this time of year, isn't it, that we think about? Jesus chose to come. He chose to come to earth, to leave heaven, to come to earth. And that's incredible. But then Jesus chose to live. Every moment he was alive here on earth, he was God limiting his power and living inside man, taking on flesh. He chose to die. We find in the Bible a choice where Jesus could have called down legions of angels to end it all and to escape the cross and the cruelty and the brutality and all of sin from all of time being funneled down and laid on his shoulders, and yet he endured it. Why? Jesus endured it to provide access to heaven, absolutely. But why? Why would God want you? Why would God want me? Why does God want humanity in heaven? The father in the story of the prodigal son honoured the choice of the prodigal son, but he did it with a heavy heart. The father yearned for his return. And isn't that the whole marvel of the story? That the father, in his hurt and his offence, honoured the son's wishes. He gave his share of the inheritance to his son. He watched the son make the wrong choice. Possibly heard stories of how he squandered his money, of how he dishonoured the family name. And as those stories came back, in that embarrassment, that hurt, that scandal, the father didn't distance himself. He didn't turn his back. He didn't banish his son. He didn't denounce his relationship because he loved him. And that's a Christmas story. That's Jesus' story. He loves us. That's why he came. He loves you. He sings over you. He cares for you. It doesn't matter what you do. It doesn't matter what I do. We're never going to change that. Isn't that a marvel? Isn't that just hard to get your mind around? That God, for some unexplainable reason, just loves us. I just want to finish by reading that story. It's so beautifully written. So Luke chapter 15, and we'll begin at verse 17. This is the son. When he, the son, came to his senses, the prodigal son, he said, "How many of my father's hired men have food to spare, and here I am starving to death? I will set out and go back to my father and say to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Make me like one of your hired men. So he got up and he went to his father. He came to his senses. But while he was still a long way off, his father saw him. His father was looking out for him. And filled with compassion for him, he ran to his son. He threw his arms around him and he kissed him. And that is our welcome when we go to heaven. The son said to him, Father, I've sinned against heaven and against you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. But the father said to his servants, Quick, bring the best robe and put it on him. Put a ring on his finger and sandals on his feet. Bring the fattened calf and kill it. Let's have a feast and celebrate, for this son of mine was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found. And so they began to celebrate. The choice of myrrh, the choice of the two thieves, our choice, what we do with Jesus. And finally, God's choice of loving us. Just a few thoughts this morning.
We're just going to stand and sing, Oh Come, Let Us Adore Him. So that's, Oh Come, Let Us Adore Him.